Bones are amazing things. They hold us up. They support us. They make us strong. But bones have other uses. In the past, bones were thrown by diviners, seeking out the mysteries of the future. Now the bones are cubes, made of plastic or resin, but they still reveal things to us. As they fall from our fingers and rattle across the table, the story becomes clear. Welcome to Bone Throwers Theater, an RPG actual play podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Bone Throwers Theater. We are playing The Skeletons. My skeleton is The Horror.
I'm Jordan. I am playing Crawler, and we determined that my name is Pelvet.
My name is Jeremy, and I'm playing the Tattered Cloak.
My name is Aaron, and I am playing the Headless.
All right, we have reached the tipping point between ages. We're about to enter our third age, and that age is called the Desecration. This is when we die.
Well, aren't we already dead?
Well, this is when we fail in our mission.
If we fail?
I think we will fail.
I think we do fail.
I'd never fail.
Thank you, Horror. We appreciate that. You are built to protect.
Yes.
He protect, he serve, he attack.
That's actually while we were asleep, that's what I realized is who or what brought me into the world. The king ordered my creation from the priests to serve as personal bodyguard for his family.
And if they're anything like Dagon, they're not a very nice bunch of people. So, my question that I answered, having embraced the sarcophagus and taken on the essence of what was inside to kill the spiders, I have come to a realization. I hate the sarcophagus's occupant because of what he did to me.
My question that I answered for the Tattered Cloak is, who did you once love? The Tattered Cloak once loved the Queen.
And the queen is not included in this tomb.
No.
Or is she?
My question is, what byname did you earn in life that describes your greatest accomplishment? My byname is the Pious, and I earned that upon rising to the most senior rank of the priests.
So I think we've all answered our questions. Are we ready to face our first round of intruders?
No. We're going to anyway.
I don't think we get a choice.
Yeah.
Would you prefer the first, the second, or the third? I'm not going to tell you what they are.
Third.
No, the third last time was spiders, so I don't like the third choice.
It's not going to be spiders again.
It would probably be the worst choice.
I'm going to go with the third as well.
Fine.
So, after 100 years, a necromancer and some mercenaries break into the catacomb, tomb, room, whatever. Describe them, illustrating how much more interested the necromancer is in you than in the treasure. Surely this person will use their knowledge to try to control you all. Will they succeed? Everyone answers none, one, or two questions as they prefer. Choose once each on the Glory Fades and God's Laughs tables.
The intruder is a necromancer who wants to control the skeletons.
Correct.
Who's controlling him?
I guess I will. Go back to the circle again.
Yep. So how did the necromancers get in?
They come in through the open graveyard.
Oh, the rent in the...
From the top where the ghouls came in before.
So they come in and they see smashed mirrors on the floor. It looks like they've fallen. They see lots of dust. It's a dusty place. And he sees his prize.
What?
Oh, great.
1, 2, 3 and a half enchanted skeletons?
Even though this wall has fallen, is this your coast?
I can't be there, so there's actually like that landslide there. I am close, and you can see that I'm...
Still reaching for it?
Yes, like a longing, like a yearning. I'm trying to...
You're probably about 6 feet, 7 feet away.
Yeah.
Just out of reach. Your fingers barely miss grazing.
My apprentice sees you first and yelps in surprise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They would see Headless, and then immediately after Tattered Cloak kneeling, because this is where
Yes.
Tattered Cloak is now.
And Crawler is still on top of the open.
No, actually, I think Crawler, because he was crawling around smothering spiders with his dead smoke, zombie smoke, whatever you want to call it, I think that he's probably laying at the foot of the sarcophagus, the northeast quadrant.
Okay. So actually, Horror's not really in this one, but Horror would be in the burl niche.
Alright, so it sounds like they see Headless first.
Yep, Headless first. Finally, something we can test our powers on. And he starts to chant, conjuring a little magic ball of power between his hands.
How close to me is the necromancer?
Like 5 feet.
Like standing on the top of the rubble. Yeah.
They might be startled a little bit when Tattered Cloak stands up.
Well, especially the apprentice. Who's like 3 feet from you.
And I'm gonna smite him with my mace.
Well, as you hit the apprentice, the necromancer casts his spell at you to try to take control of you.
Crawler, pelvic comes to life and rolls over. He grabs his femur, opens his mouth, and starts spraying the magical miasma at the necromancer's apprentice. Or apprentice?
Red shirt?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, my thought was that like it would disrupt the spell, like one kind of magic disrupting the other.
Well, the apprentice gets smacked in the head with a big old giant mace, and just as his head's going crunch, this ball of energy comes flying at Headless. And it's a good thing he's headless, because it goes right where his head would be, and this other blast of dark energy hits the spell, and they dissipate over top of Headless's body.
So whose skull got crunched? The apprentice?
The apprentice.
How many,
Mercenaries are coming in behind me. Necromancer runs to the north.
As the necromancer's running, you see Slingshot like around from behind, Headless, stabbing into the body of the apprentice. On the pile of rubble is Tattered Cloak, and you see the body of the apprentice just into dust.
As you're stabbing the body of the apprentice, 2 mercenaries drop down and kick at Tattered Cloak.
So the necromancer is running towards me.
Well, towards the hallway, mostly.
Okay. I'm kind of obscured by the mist, I would imagine. I would like to angle my broken femur up and
Spike him?
Yup.
Well, he wouldn't be running into the mist.
Oh. Well, can I throw it at him?
You can throw it in.
I want to spear. Let me throw a bone for that. There.
You throw your femur, your broken femur, and it hits the necromancer.
Alright, I want to swarm all over him.
He's screaming in pain.
Okay.
So there's now 2 mercenaries, and one of them loving a gun at Headless.
An actual gun.
Actual gun.
It's been
a lot of time. So
Right.
Technology has
beyond,
progressed.
Yes.
Well, unless we're in Tolkien universe.
Yeah, in Tolkien's universe, technology progresses.
Yeah, but I mean, how many millennia passed and they were still bows and arrows?
So seeing him, whether I recognize a gun or not,
No.
seeing him pointing something at me and knowing he is not friendly, I am charging forward and continuing to swing my mace. Can I see the book for the list of questions? And as I swing my mace, I swing too hard and try to catch myself, and my arm gets dislodged, and my left arm, the one holding my holy symbol, and falls off onto the floor. Can I say something about this? And we're supposed to, like, the whole purpose of the game is about this inexorable march of time. That time destroys everything. And we're supposed to be falling apart. Everything is supposed to be falling apart. And I just understood that as we were getting ready for this piece. Nothing is eternal.
No.
And I love it.
Alright, well, the one who's holding the gun at you actually shoots your left hand as it's falling, destroying the holy symbol.
Perfect.
And then he drops the gun to the one-shot pistol.
So, stabbing the necromancer with an enchanted femur is actually going to cause a little bit of a power reaction. And he keeps on stumbling on.
And he's chanting still.
He's chanting. You would think that the necromantic magic would be compatible with what we have, but it is not. So, as he's chanting, he stumbles into the hallway that leads from the north into our cavern. And we'll go ahead and answer this question. The place where a skeleton stands watch is covered in debris and impassable. And the north tunnel, the entrance, is destroyed in this vortex of competing magics. So now there is rubble. And the rubble is also disrupting the coin mosaic on the floor and blocking everything in. The only way in now is the venting from the necropolis above the tomb.
Tattered Cloak, there's a mercenary kicking you. Or kicking your sword that you just stabbed into the apprentice.
One of those things on there is the skeleton's weapon is broken, so as the stabbed into the debris, the sword was already battle scarred. As it's kicked, the blade is snapped, but the Tattered Cloak is just going to raise up and lunge into the mercenary with the broken sword, still stabbing it in the gut.
Being stabbed with no point hurts.
And I would imagine the mercenary in the same fashion, just dust.
Mercenary number 2 is attacking Headless, who just lost an arm. He lunges and tackles Headless. And the Necromancer is fighting off Crawler.
So the necromancer survived the explosive combination of magic.
Not by much. Enough that he stopped chanting.
Is he still standing, or has he fallen to the
He's
ground?
fallen to the ground. I figured that's why Crawler's over.
Crawler is going to do what he does best.
Yeah.
Crawler is going to crawl right up to the necromancer. No, not Crawler. Helvet will sink his teeth into the necromancer's throat. And the warm blood that flows down the chin and also between his teeth reminds Helvet of the ability to taste and how he would find great pleasure in the taste of the blood from the chickens that he would steal from the coops. And Pelvet thinks to himself, they're just chickens. They're just meat.
Okay, so we're down to one mercenary that had just tackled Headless.
Well, Headless is gonna grapple with said mercenary and in an attempt to knee him in any reachable sensitive spots. I'm missing a hand, missing an arm. If I would actually being tackled, I probably also dropped my mace, so I'm not holding that at this point.
What happens when your mace hits the ground?
Actually, when it hits the ground and as it falls and the handle hits the ground, the handle is actually like a skull, and the eyes kind of flash color.
Okay.
Alright. Well, you killed them all.
Sounds good. They're good and dead. How much time would you all like to pass? A decade? A century? Multiple centuries? A millennium? An age? Or an epoch?
Well, this is potentially before the last one, right?
Yep, correct.
Let's do an epoch. And before that, as the Tattered Cloak has done before, goes on to the next one, the Jade Niche, kneels down and goes to put the sword, and it stops the same spot, and you hear even though it's half a blade.
All right. Choose 3 times on either or both of the World's Crumble or Time Devours tables. 3. And adjust the map as needed.
I think we should just roll for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Evens will be World's Crumble. Odds will be Time Devours. Even. So
Crumble.
World's Crumble. So we'll go 1 through 6. It's number 2. A tomb robber is successful. What object did they steal? Choose from among those already introduced if you are able.
A chalice.
Yeah, I was saying the chalice is one of them.
I was going to say
be a mirror.
the gems.
Prize the gems off of one of the gemmed daughters.
It could be one of our bones.
Yeah.
Could be the sword.
Mace.
Could be the cloak.
Ooh.
Could be my crown.
Ooh, yeah, I would think it's the crown.
My crown is gone.
The horror's crown is gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of all those things, that
Yeah.
probably would be
The grave
the
robbers.
easiest and the first sought after thing.
Yeah.
It's a crown.
Yeah.
So
Not
that,
too far from the entrance that they come in on. And
Yeah.
All right. 3.
so that'd be time devours. 1.
The web of tomb spiders form an intricate filigree over the walls and ceilings. Note this on the map. All right. Webs of spiders have been formed.
The webs kind of make it look like the sword is actually touching the ground.
World
Yeah.
crumble. Yeah.
3. The great sarcophagus splits open, spilling out its contents.
Even more.
Yeah. So now
So-
the cracks have completely.
So the entire room is now filled with the black smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I like this idea. There's a minotaur inside the sarcophagus.
Desiccated minotaur.
Yes.
Or mummified.
A mummified,
Mummified minotaur.
Mummified minotaur, because the wrappings.
Yeah, the
starting
wrappings
to
are
creep
coming out. Yeah.
So when you say mummified minotaur, you're talking about one that is alive.
Nope.
Okay.
Dead.
Mummified.
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 A mummified miniature minotaur.
Miniature mummified minotaur.
A moth. Mummified miniature minotaur.
Like 8 feet tall, about 6 feet wide at the shoulders. Absolutely stacked. That's why it had to be built like the sarcophagus was vertical,
Because they couldn't actually pick him up and lay him into the
Right.
sarcophagus.
Yeah.
They just built the sarcophagus around him.
And the floor, there's like a foot and a half of just black smoke.
Can I adjust that?
Sure.
It stays only on the mosaic,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it fills to the height that the minotaur would have stood in real life.
So it's 8 foot.
8 feet of black, dense smoke trapped on the mosaic.
I'm digging it.
All right, are we ready to turn off the lights?
Yes.
Arise and protect the tomb, skeletal guardians.
So, who here among the skeletons once treated you with kindness? Headless did.
Yay!
During his life as a priest. He is one of the priests. He created me, treated me like a child. Like his child.
In what way is your immortal curse also an awful blessing? I will live, quote unquote, long enough to see the Minotaur fall.
What connection do you have to those you've just killed or driven away? And what memory did they evoke? So for me, it was one of my duties as a priest, and specifically when I was a lower member of the priesthood, was actually hunting down necromancers. I had to seek them out wherever they could be found and kill them in my previous life. And the memory that they evoked was the time that I failed. And I got to a town that supposedly a necromancer had been working in. I got there too late, and the entire town had been wiped out.
So, answering the same question for Tattered Cloak, what connection do you have to those just killed or driven away, and what memory did that invoke? The connection Tattered Cloak has to a necromancer, because there was once a necromancer who also claimed he could cheat death. And memory it invokes is the time the Tattered Cloak sought out and paid that particular necromancer to protect his forbidden love of Estania, who was the queen, and bind her life force to 8 gems. And in doing so, also his curse, he was bound to protect those gems as long as they exist.
Your last set of intruders are some of your own descendants. They follow an ancient treasure map penned by your own children. Describe how you see yourself in them. Who among you will be the first to strike them down? Can you even bear it? Everyone answers none, 1, or 2 questions as they prefer. Choose once each on the Glory Fades and God's Laugh tables.
None, 1 or 2?
None, 1 or 2. I'll go first.
Yeah.
Is anybody playing the people?
It didn't sound like there's much need to for this one.
No, because they destroy us.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But the way that I see these people are not pure humans. They are human minotaur hybrids.
Oh.
So they're human?
Yeah.
Because the Minotaur's like half human, half bull?
Right,
Yeah.
but with like
I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
yeah, but so like here's the thing, it's like they have
They're
like,
human with bull horns.
like with bull horns and tails.
Okay.
Hellboy. Yeah, they might have like, cloven feet. Some are quadrupeds, some are bipeds. And you can definitely tell that they are here because they are bloodthirsty. And they are looking for something that their warlike ancestors would have left behind.
So one of the group that comes in doesn't have any visible Minotaur characteristics. Comes in wearing gauntlets on his forearms, but it's rimmed with garnets. And upon entering the room, the Tattered Cloak is as bright as you've ever seen it before.
Is it like bright in hue, or is light actually coming from it?
Light doesn't appear to be coming from it, but light appears to be shining on it.
Okay.
All of them, every single one in the group, has some form of symbol of the Headless Saint on them, whether it's on their weapon, on their clothing, and one of them is in fact carrying the religious symbol that I had, which was in the shape of a hand with the Headless Saint's symbol icon on it. And he's also wearing the cloak that my apprentice, my son, had been wearing, religiously enchanted cloak, when he cut my head off.
I don't know how I have descendants.
It's probably for the best that you don't. Considering that you are a freakish amalgam of magic and science.
Yeah. They're my descendants in the fact that they're all treasure.
You're glad you don't see yourself in them,
Yes.
and that they look like normal. Can I go first?
Sure.
As Headless recognizes the group, Headless begins to, instead of going towards the group, he is crossing the room to where he knows his head last was.
Where the rats have been blocked off.
Yeah. I'm going to go retrieve my head.
Okay. Is there still light pouring from the gems into the now defeated sarcophagus?
Yes, because that is what is actually fueling the mist trapped on the mosaic paneling on the floor. That's my theory. Unless anybody else has a different idea.
No.
So is it going to really destroy the intention if we just sort of give in to this?
I don't think so, not necessarily, because
Well,
I
it
think...
can also go along with the questions.
Right. That's kind of where I was going with mine.
Yeah. If we answer the questions, we can do however we want. Like, two of the questions are, one is you're losing your power to fight, but not your will. The other one is you're losing your will to fight, but not your power. You know?
So to answer that question, for me, it is recognizing the cloak that my son wore when he sacrificed me in an attempt for me to ascend. I no longer want to fight this group, but I am still animated.
So you would like to pass on your burden, so to speak.
Not necessarily my burden, I'm just not going to try to kill my descendant.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the magic compelling the skeletons to service. So as that one with the garnet-rimmed gauntlets approaches, Tattered Cloak stands up in a posture not seen before, holds the sword with the hilt out, and approaches and kneels.
Crawler is still fairly near to the sarcophagus. One of the descendants goes and reaches out and grabs one of the horns that's sticking out of the smoke. She starts pulling the body of the master off of the mosaic horns. Pelvet charges her and tries to grapple, still trying to protect the master. And he misses his grab and slips and falls into the fog. And he loses his sense of what is up and down, and his sense of direction, east, west, north, south, mean nothing to him anymore, as the magic just overwhelms him. And as the Minotaur's head crosses the threshold between the mosaic and the floor, the magic begins to dissipate. And Crawler's animating spirit is captured in that, and his body's fall. All of the small little phalanges and vertebrae and the sternum and all of that just clink against the coins that make up the floor. And Pelvet is gone.
After Headless has retrieved his head, he turns around and seeing Tattered Cloak kneeling with the sword out, rushes over and kneels beside him, holding out his head towards the group in front of him.
Horror attacks.
Frickin' horror.
It's my job. But the magic here is fading. The magic of the gems is poured into this mist. Sarcophagus has been broken open. And as Horror goes to lunge, finds that it's hard to move. He wants so badly to attack these intruders, but cannot bring himself to actually do it physically. The magic sustaining his ability to animate has failed him.
Does that have anything to do with your crown being removed?
It very well could. He's never taken off any of his jewels, except for the rings that were gifted to him. Everything else was on him when he was awakened. So they may be what possessed his magic to begin with. The horror is now past.
The Headless has passed. Tattered Cloak has passed. And the Crawler has passed. Thank you very much for listening to this game of the skeletons. let's sit here for a moment and contemplate as our descendants leave the tomb with the bodies not only of the Minotaur, but of the gemmed daughters. And let's think about how the world has changed since our time walking among the living. Alright. That was only the base version that we played. There are also 2 more iterations.
So that was going to be one of my questions. But before I get to that question, we talked, I think this was in between episodes. We said that this was created by the same person that did Fiasco.
Yes.
And having played, it was one of our go-to games, Fiasco. I love this game.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Bully Pulpit Games knocked it out of the park again with this one.
This was so much fun. This is amazing. But I would think that if you were unfamiliar with Fiasco, it would be very difficult to get into this game.
Yes. It's not a very beginner-friendly game.
No. Whereas Fiasco had this clear path. First you do this, then you look at this, then you choose from this. This was a lot more open-ended, which leads into the question that I had, and maybe the other iterations of this. The one thing I thought we would have benefited from is more tables.
Yeah.
Rather than choosing from the same tables every time.
Yeah, I agree.
So one thing that he does bring up is that if you want to, you can switch things up by writing your own tables.
So I can see that.
Yeah, which I don't think we would have a problem with.
Right.
So I think the other thing is, I really like the tables, the God laughs and the glory fades. Like, I like those for the second phase. I feel like the first phase should have been more minor change type stuff.
Yeah, help build the world deeper.
Yes, and then the second phase we start having the glory fade and God's laugh. You know, everything is descending into dust. So yes, more tables.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I also think another thing it would have benefited from is more flavor text guided wise in the book. And I think that's what this whole thing about years fly by like dead leaves, everything is darkness, everything is silence. It's supposed to try to start getting you in the mood, but I think that a guide, something that's supposed to make you feel an idea of the end of the game is supposed to be destruction. Everything is falling apart.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to fall apart. There's no way to avoid it falling apart.
I think like at the beginning of each age, a write-up that kind of talks about how the world might have changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time has passed. The empire you once knew is no longer, or something along those lines in the middle one. But at the first one, the tomb has been opened. It has been a short amount of time since you were set to guard here. Something like that. That flavor text that would give you the feel for where you are in relation to time itself. And then also, again, like I said, to me, I had a hard time at the beginning remembering that the goal of this is that we're cursed for eternity to live like this.
Yeah.
And I kept forgetting that eternity part of this. And I think that some way to bring that to mind would have been awesome.
It goes against a lot of the tropes of role-playing in a lot of ways, especially for a dungeon crawl where you're supposed to get better. In this game does the exact opposite.
You're supposed to get worse.
Where you're getting worse.
What I like not only is the situation getting worse, is this is like the after story of all these characters that have already met their worst end.
Yeah.
And what I really like about it is we're following the story of the skeletons protecting this tomb, and we're getting echoes of the previous stories.
Yes.
It's like almost we're playing this out, but in answering these questions, we're getting flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time
Of
you do a
what
battle.
their life was like.
Yeah, after every battle, we get flashbacks of what was happening before we came to him.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
honestly, these characters, these skeletons, I almost said we could go back and play a campaign with each of these characters, not like together, but
Right.
like
Yeah.
if we wanted to, we could have a Crawler shot where we are exploring the life of Crawler.
Right.
And
Yeah.
for Tattered Cloak, what would that life like? And all of these characters, like where we saw snippets of their lives when they were alive and what led them to be cursed in this
Yeah.
fashion.
Yeah.
It's like
I
the
love
depths of this. This is a one shot where we, in just a few hours' time, have created a depth of a universe.
Yeah.
That, I mean, gosh, we could go back and play another one shot now.
This is a nihilistic microscope in a lot of ways.
Yes.
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 I love it.
And it's backwards. It's like microscope. You start with this. You start from the top, and then you get the details. Here, you're already at the end with all the details, and you're backtracking and reverse engineering what has gone on. Great way to storytell.
And I love how much story came from one room.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
You know,
I wanted one room and 4 things in the room. Yeah.
that was it. And there was so much story that came from it. I loved, not very often anymore, but I used to do a lot of mindfulness techniques, a lot of meditation, sitting with myself and trying to practice mindful thinking. And the darkness reminded me of those. And it just kind of, like, the longer the darkness got, the more it was like making you have to be patient and realize how much the world of the game was changing. I kept on thinking to myself, oh my lord, all of these things are going on around this necropolis that we've built that we don't know anything about. And it was incredible to think of like the what ifs of what was happening in the world around us as we were just sitting there waiting for the alarm system.
I also think that part of that is, Jeremy, you were talking about how Fiasco has a little bit more structure. I think that when we answer the questions, I think some of the questions would be beneficial with you had to answer them. You know, how Fiasco has that, how are you related to? I think that would have been awesome in some of the interactions here.
Well, I think
It'd be tough.
Well, no, I don't know if it would be, well, for our group, I don't know if it would be tough. Because we instinctually started to do that.
Yes.
Like, we started to tie in theories of what these 7 daughters mean for this character, what this 7 daughters mean for this character, and how do those relate?
Yeah.
The way that I was playing the game, and I don't think I really talked about it to anybody, was that Crawler was an early experiment for what the horror was going to become.
That's what I thought of too. And we talked about this in a theory in between episodes that the 7 daughters were actually just one being that has been reincarnated in different lives over the course of ages, eons, whatever you want to do it. And the Tattered Cloak, the skeleton that I was playing, was basically charged with the protection of each of those lives and lived many lifetimes protecting this one entity who was the queen of this realm or whatever, that kept being the queen in many different forms, and eventually betrayed the king because the Tattered Cloak eventually fell in love with this queen and betrayed the king. That was what I was trying to say when the smoke reached out and choked the Tattered Cloak, and the skeleton actually went away.
The king was Minotaur.
The king was the Minotaur. And then, Johnny, you said your character was created to protect this thing. If you notice, that's where it happened. Your character hanging out at the Onyx one.
The very last one.
That's where the Tattered Cloak died, was saying that's where he portrayed the king.
Yeah.
And then the horror was created. It's like, no, we don't need this guy to protect. We're going to make our own protection for this queen in one sense or another. And then, Aaron, it seemed like you were hinting at the 7 daughters again also being one entity, because you referred to it as the saint. Yeah. So meaning that this entity was the saint that again got the headshot.
They kept coming back to life.
It kept coming back to life. Yeah.
Was an eternal being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for your character, it was, this person is the saint. And for my character, this is the person that Tattered
Yeah.
Cloak, his life, he was in love with this person.
Right.
And then Johnny's character, this was the
Charge.
the queen that you were supposed to protect.
Yeah. And Jordan's was in love with one of the iterations of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, but it was a tormentor.
Yeah, so I loved that. Actually, I loved that mechanic of how one of the memories that you remembered is actually wrong.
And I think that's where I think that it would be beneficial for some groups to have it require that it happens to somebody else, because some of those, I think...
Yeah, I thought about like answering those questions for other people.
Right. And I think that in Fiasco, you're forced to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that at times, that would have been a neat mechanic.
Yes.
But I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
We could have done that
We could
in
have.
that sense, because answering some of the questions, we chose for all those things to happen to those specific skeletons that we were controlling,
Yeah.
like losing a bone, or your weapon breaks, or some of the things that could happen to any one of the skeletons.
And we
mostly chose for
For it to happen to ourselves.
the
Yeah.
harm.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good default for a beginning play, but
I loved it. I thought it was a very, very enjoyable game. I will definitely play it again.
it's a beautiful game in a lot of ways. It's a tragic game. It fits well with our play style. Oh, another big part of this game was drawing.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was a real bonus.
Actually, I kept drawing.
Yeah, I know you were drawing yours the entire time.
And I was like, I'm really liking this Cloak
Yeah.
figure. You know?
Jordan and Jeremy's look like actual characters, and then there's mine and Aaron's.
Yours looks pretty good too. I mean, the crown is really important to the character.
Yeah.
It kind of actually looks like a miner's helmet.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah, this was excellent. Excellent game.
We're going to have to keep this in our back pocket for if we're not recording something but we still want to play a game.
Yeah.
Because I definitely think that this can hold up to 6 players, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And 4 players is a sweet spot.
Yes.
If I were going to do it with more, I would make one person control the book and be the one to do all the monster stuff and then go from there.
I actually kind of like that aspect of it,
Or
where we went through and in one
skeleton was out of the fray for the.
one skeleton wasn't animated for one reason or another, and just by luck of the draw, that fit for when the Tattered Cloak wasn't there, because it was right after the scene where his skeleton disappeared.
Yeah.
So, but I actually like that idea as well.
That was cool.
Unfortunately, I had to control the spiders, but
The spiders were written into the book. You remember?
it was. It wasn't a
But you looked.
Jordan trying to be nasty, but
Would I ever be nasty? Oh my god.
Yes.
All right. I think that pretty much wraps up The Skeletons by Jason Morningstar. If you liked it, the book is not very expensive. I highly recommend purchasing it as a game for a group that knows each other well and is very comfortable with playing roles. And just getting a different perspective on how a dungeon might actually be. That was really great. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Bone Throwers Theater. We are releasing this podcast under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. That means you can share the podcast, but please do not modify it or try to gain financially from it. If you would like to visit our website, you can do so at bonethrowerstheater.com. If you would like to send us an email, you can do so at bonethrowerstheater@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is bonethrowerstheater. You can also look us up on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, may the bones fall ever in your favor. This has been a Nerd Circle podcast production.